We start with showing you what the current implementation can do. We will show you live demo in just a minute. This is just a screenshot which is convenient for explaining some more important concepts that we have in Wildland. These are actually 3 screenshots taken from a file manager. That's actually Finder, but doesn't matter because Wildland is actually app agnostic. It exposes a file system, and how you consume the file system is up to you. Here I decided to consume it using macOS Finder. So you see here that, and we will see it in a demo in a moment, that we first have a file system which represents Ariadne forest. A forest in Wildland is a concept representing one namespace. One namespace represented as a file system tree. And each forest has an owner, which is essentially a keeper, a public and private key. Here, Ariadne is a friendly name for a certain user identity, which creates this namespace, which here is used as a directory of other forests. And as we will see in a demo in a moment, Michał will import Ariadne user manifest, so he will create the root for the name service resolution. And then once we have Ariadne, we can find other forests. And here we have an example of a cafe forest, which is exposed just as a folder. And then we will mount it, and this cafe is another forest which has a number of other containers, and we will see them in a moment. Actually, we will show you 2 forests, Pandora forest and cafe forest. These are 2 actual forests that we use internally. Pandora, which is reference to Magic Forest in Avatar movie, is a file storage, file repository that we use internally for Wildland development. So we put memos, documentation, specifications, etc. on Pandora. And then we have also Cafe, which is used for non-work related stuff. Like someone wants to share an interesting article with other coworkers, then it's being put on Cafe. And we use it because we also think about Wildland not just as a storage solution, like Dropbox, but also we think about it as a data organization or even knowledge management tool. And you will see in a moment that each container can have multiple paths, and this, we believe, is a helpful trick that allows us to use file system as an interesting knowledge management tool. And then you see the 2 directories that you see here, like as we may think an information management proposal. One is the famous Memex article from 1945, and the other is the famous web proposal from 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee. And we have these 2 containers, and each of them is stored on different infrastructure. One of them is stored on actually my personal Dropbox, another is stored on some perhaps S3 bucket. And excuse me, we have a few more containers, a few dozens containers there, and each of them might be stored on different infrastructures, yet they are all exposed to the user as one unified file system. The user doesn't need to bother themselves where a given container is. Is it on my Dropbox, on my Google Drive, on some S3 storage, on my NAS, whatever? The user only can find the container by going to the container using its semantic addressing, like topic, knowledge, as we may think. And we think this is pretty cool. So just to sum it up, what you saw here is we showed you this cascading addressing. One forest has links to other forests. You saw the unified the unified view of different storages as one file system, and you also see that one container can be found under many paths. And maybe we'll just go directly to the actual demo, and this will be even more easier to comprehend. So what Michał just did is, Michał is starting a Docker, and this Docker is packaging Wildland client. Right now, Wildland client that we just released last week is only for Linux, and we use it from a Docker. So from a Docker, you can use it on an operating system. It supports Docker. And this is a clean installation of Wildland client, which we can see by listing the users. This is Wildland, WL is a Wildland client, U is for user. There's no users in the system. So Michał will create a new user called Alice. We see a new user got created, and this user identity, which is essentially a hash of the public key, is this long number. So, yeah, can we list them? Just, yeah, we have one user. So now we have an empty, essentially we have an empty forest. We just started Wildland, we just created a new user, and the forest of this user, which we can see by going into the Wildland node point. If you could go 3, yeah. And 3, There are no files there. So now we're gonna import Ariadne user manifest, which is a starting point for building some name service resolution. This is Ariadne here plays a role of a root DNS server, except that every user can choose their own starting directory. Unlike in DNS, where we all use essentially a predefined list of a dozen root DNS servers, here every local community can start from their own directory server, which will then allow to find forests of perhaps users of this from this community. So we just imported Ariadne manifests, which we are exposing at ariadne.wildland.io. Obviously, we can also expose it through other protocols, not necessarily through DNS. We might have, or someone might have sent you a user manifest for the forest using Signal or whatever other protocol. Okay, so let's see what we have in the forest now. Okay, so we imported Ariadne forest manifests, and this resulted in what we call a bridge to appear in the forest, and this bridge is under Wildland Forest Ariadne paths. This is because when Michał was importing Ariadne forests, which we don't see here, he explicitly gave path forest Ariadne, telling where he wants the bridge to appear. Now we can mount the actual Ariadne forest. So we will mount the bridge, which will result in mounting of the containers, all the containers from this forest. Let's see what's, yeah, we can actually see it in Finder. So in this forest we see Pandora. So let's mount Pandora forest now. Again, Ariadne plays a role of directory. So Pandora is a reasonably large forest. We have, as you see, almost 120 containers there. And as you see, the Pandora forest now is exposed as a file system underneath the Pandora bridge. which we got to through Ariadne. And see, here you can see all sorts of folders, which we use for organizing our development repository. So let's go to, say, clients and Linux, which we have all sorts of documentation for particular clients. As you can see, so we also have work on macOS, but this is still work in progress. So let's see some latest report about the status of Wildland client. We can, yeah. So that's just some reports, some PDF. Can we go back to Finder? Okay, now can you show hidden files? So we can see by this hidden file here is dynamically created to tell us that it's a Wildland container, and we can see this manifest. We can open it in an editor. Indeed, it's a container, and as you saw, we entered this container through going to clients, Linux, and the name of the container, which is Linux client status update something something. But you can see that it has also other categories. For example, it has a timeline category. Can you highlight it, Michał? Which means we can as well find the same container using this path. So let's see if we can find it there. So it's, as you see, by convention, we agreed that we give this category, which represents the date of creation of this. This is, of course, only a convention. And we landed at the same container. So we call this multi-categorization, and we believe this is very useful very useful feature to make file systems useful for organizing more complex data stores. Okay, I said previously that we also have, besides Pandora, we also have Cafe forests. But interestingly, you didn't see this forest on Ariadne when we showed Ariadne. See, Ariadne has only Pandora. This is because Cafe is an encrypted forest only for closed group of members. So to access it, we need to access it from a user who has been added to the Cafe group user. And Michał has another instance of a Docker with another instance of a client with his real user identity, and he will now try to mount again this other forest. By the way, as you can see, the Docker that we use, the Wildland client in a Docker is packaged in such a way that it automatically exposes file system over WebDAV on localhost 8080, thanks to which we can consume it using a WebDAV aware a client. Okay, so now you see. Can you show that you have user? Yeah. Yeah, this is the user we want to see. The Michał, the one here. So this is the user that is actually granted access to Cafe by being added to Cafe group user. And what is important is that now when this user mounted Ariadne forest, the user sees additional Cafe bridge in this directory, which we can now mount. there's an interesting difference between Pandora and Cafe Forest. Pandora Forest has a storage where we, as an organization, provide to everyone to publish containers. But Cafe, on the other hand, is because it's a kind of non-work related, everyone provides storage by themselves. So if I have a Dropbox and want to expose something, I use my Dropbox. If I have WebDAV server, I use this WebDAV server. So it's a collection of many heterogeneous storages, again exposed as one unified file system. So let's see something. Let's go to topics maybe, and let's see knowledge. And let's see this as we may think container from the screenshot, maybe the org one. This is it's quite slow because it uses a storage that was not optimized in any way for exposing for being used in Wildland in this way. Okay, so we see some PDF here. Let's now find the actual storage, the container manifest for this container, and let's see on what storage it is located. As you can see, we don't have any kind of GUI right now. Of course, in future releases, it will be just as easy as right-clicking on this folder and choosing inspect or something like that, and see all the information and modify container. Right now, we do everything using low-level interface. But again, this is just version 0.1. So we are looking for for a container claiming this path. We have this container. Let's look at the storage manifest, at the manifest of this container. Maybe we can zoom it somehow. Yeah, the container starts here. And you see, this is the container. This is the title of the container, as we may think. It has those categories, like topics knowledge, the one which we founded, also has timeline 1945, because this is when this famous article was written. And then we have storage backend. Can you highlight the storage backend? As you can see, it's a Dropbox kind of storage backend. So someone who created this container used their own Dropbox, generated a token, which is not printed here, and then put files there and expose it in our Cafe Forest by creating this manifest and publishing into the Forest catalog. Let's look at the different container now. Maybe the one that is encrypted. I don't remember which one is that. Okay, so here we see a container which is titled Redline and under some paths, and you can see its storage manifest. Can you highlight the storage manifest? Refers another container and also provides a symmetric key. By the way, when we use WL dump, This WL dump automatically decrypts the manifest, because normally the manifest itself is always encrypted only to users whose keys are allowed to see it. Now we see the decrypted manifest, and this decrypted manifest contains the secret key, the symmetric secret key for this container, which is kept on another container, which contains the ciphertext. And we can see this container here. Let's see where it is actually stored. And here we have a container, the container for the ciphertext, which is stored on S3. And this is the S3://ppsha Wildland Cafe is the name of the bucket. So let's look at this container, at this S3 bucket. What's inside it? Do you have a AWS console open here? Yeah, but we didn't. Okay. You can mount it. You can show it in Wildland going through UUID and C3. This container, being any other container, is also mapped in the forest just under this .uuid path, so we can get there. Maybe you can go there in the Finder so everyone can see it's. It should be in cafe. Okay. And this is C36. As you can see, it's encrypted by GoCryptFS, and so this is what is stored on actual S3. But what we see in our forest, can you scroll down to this decrypted container? And this is the decrypted, which we can, which is some movie that we can open and play. Okay, and I guess that's it for the demo. As you can see, it's still very low level. It requires low level interface. But we are still pretty excited about those three features, which again are that you have all sorts of different types of backends which are exposed as one unified file system, and this multi-categorization and this cascading addressing that we can find other forests through other forests, which is a building block for essentially building something like custom webs for different kind of groups of users. Oh, he actually plays the movie, which is on encrypted container, which is on S3, submitted by Pavel. Okay, so thank you.